Hi, this is Emily from the Children's Literature Training Academy. I want to tell you about this book that I just finished reading. It is The Wish Giver, and it is a Newbery Honor Award Winning book. And it was written in 1983, and it's technically considered a folk tale. So I don't know if this was the original cover that came with the book or not. This is a more of a modern, you know, printing of the book. The book is by Bill Brittain. And so, as you might know, in children's literature, folk tales or folklore are generally stories that teach a lesson to a child through interesting tales that don't make a lot of sense, but you can understand the meaning or the message behind the tale. So this book was fantastic, and it was a fast, engaging read, and the New York Times called it an eerie delight. Book list and a lot of other well-known reviewers over the years have gave it some great accolade. It's a very creative story, and it's really about a man. Well, it's about this kind of this sleepy New England rural village called Coventry, and the Thaddeus Blinn. He's sort of like the way I like to perceive it is he's like a gypsy. He has like the gypsy card, and people can go up to it, or like a fortune teller, they can go up to the trailer or the card, and they can pay a certain amount of cents to have their fortune told or something like that. So these three children go to this man who's known to be kind of mystical and sort of hocus pocusy, and they go into his trailer, and there's people sitting there waiting for their turn, and they can pay, it's like a small amount of money, like 35 cents or 50 cents or something, to get to have all their one biggest wish come true. Sort of like you can go and pay 50 cents for a genie to pop out of the bottle and give you whatever you want, whatever your greatest wish is. And of course, the kids think that it's bogus. There's three kids. There's a girl and two boys. The girl is 15. The boys are a little bit younger, not related. They're all in there, just to kind of see what all the hype is about. And this sort of mystical man, Thaddeus Blinn, he says, you can have one wish, whatever you want. You don't have to tell me what it is. You just have to pay me. And he gives them each a card, a little like card, and the cards have like a little red dot on it. And he tells them, when you're ready to make your wish, press your thumb onto the red dot, and your wish will come true. Just be careful. And he warns them, be careful what you wish for. Be absolutely sure it's what you want. And so the children are like, yeah, right, okay. They don't really buy it, like it's a whole bunch of like hocus pocusy nonsense or whatever. And so they wander off, go about their lives. And then the rest of the book is told in three separate little stories. So this was like the first prologue and chapter. And then the first story is about what happens with, actually, I'm sorry, I had that wrong. There's two girls and one boy. Yeah, two girls and one boy. So the first story is about the first girl, what happens with her and her wish card, the lesson she learns. Then there's the story with the second girl, the 15-year-old girl. Then there's the story about the boy. And so with the first girl, nobody likes her. She has no friends. She wishes that people will like her. And she's kind of big mouth. She's kind of rude. She's kind of snarky. She always tells everybody what she thinks right up front. She's very blatant and, blurts out whatever she thinks. And she's kind of mean. And so she just makes the wish that she wishes everybody would like her, to be the most liked person in school or whatever. And so then she goes to school the next day after making her wish, right? And suddenly she's talking fine and normal, but whenever she comes across these kids that don't like her, or that she's normally mean to, or kids that she usually is rude to, whenever she goes to try to say something that she wants to say, like that's calling them names or telling them to leave her alone, or they suck at school or whatever, this frog ribbit comes out of her mouth. Right. So she can talk normal, but all of a sudden she opens her mouth. It's like croak, 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 ribbit, ribbit, or whatever. And she doesn't know what the hell's happening. And it's every time she goes to make one of her normal insults or say something to someone that usually makes them not like her, these frog sounds come out. And so she can't do her normal pattern of things that make people not like her, the kids at school. So then, so basically then everybody becomes fascinated with her, and then they start feeling sorry for her and wonder what's wrong with her. And then everybody starts to tend to her, and suddenly they're nicer to her. And also she's not insulting people anymore. So people are liking her more. And so, as that story goes on, the moral of the story there is yeah, what's interesting about this wish thing is they all get their wishes, but they get them in a way that's not what they thought. It's not what they asked for. And so the moral, right, of the folk tale, telling here, or the whole moral of all these stories is be careful what you wish for, and be very, very specific what you wish for. So but in each story they learn a lesson, right? It's meant to teach them a lesson. And so this girl learns that to be liked, you have to be nicer to people. You have to not always say what you think. You have to be careful what you say. You have to be kinder with your words. So she learns to catch herself by every time she's about to say something rude or not nice or insulting, she catches herself by these frog sounds that start coming out. And now she becomes aware of it. She also gets her wish of everybody liking her in an odd way that she didn't ask for, because they both feel sorry for her, and also because she stops being mean to people. So that's the first story. And the second story is about a 15-year-old girl named Rowena. And this is all like a very, the time period isn't specific, but it's very like farmland. It's very, it feels to me like early turn of the century-ish, kind of a scenario, a lot of poverty, kind of a thing. But the second girl, and by the way, the language of how the girl talks, shucks and darn it and bad grammar and whatnot in the dialogue. But this girl, she has a crush on an older, a man who comes traveling around. She's 15, a man who comes traveling around as a salesman, and she's been trying to hook or land him for a long time, or get him to like her or whatever. And usually he kind of doesn't really ignore her and rejects her. And she thinks and everyone's warning her that this isn't a nice man and he's too old for you and yada yada. But she makes the wish that she wishes that, and he's always traveling. So when he comes around through this town, he doesn't stay long. So she makes the wish that this man, Henry, will stay planted, or he'll develop roots in the town of Coventry and stay put where he is. So he won't leave again, right? Because she never has enough time with him to get him to like her. And then she goes out the next day, or he had come around to make it like his sales pitch or whatever. And then suddenly he's calling, screaming for help, and she runs out into like the wood where he was walking up to their house, and he's like planted in place, like his feet grow rooted into the ground and become a tree, so he can't move, literally. And so she's trying to get him free, and they're trying to do all these things, and she realizes it comes from her wish, and she's like, no, that's not what I meant. So there's nothing she can do, and her father hates this man. I guess he's supposed to be like in his young 20s or something, I don't know. She's 15. They don't really say, but you assume he's an adult. And so she has to go to school over several days, and she keeps coming back to check on him, stuck, and he starts growing roots out of his fingers and his hands. He's slowly turning into a tree, but she wished that he would grow roots and stay planted where he is. And he did. So it was very literal. And again, that's not what she wished for. So in the meantime, while figuring out, because really what she wanted was to be liked and to be loved. And she has a male friend, not a boyfriend, but a male friend in school who she never really noticed before, who's kind of nerdy and not as, older and refined and regal as this traveling sales guy that she just, turned into a tree. So she decides to basically, she starts telling her friend what happened, and he starts helping her figure out ideas how to get this guy free from the ground. And then she starts to see this boy in a different way and decides she likes him. But he actually treats her well, but because every time she's going back to the salesman guy who she thinks she likes, who's rooted into the ground, he's rude and mean and verbally abusive, like calls her names and calls her dimwit, and she tells him why she made the wish, and he laughs at her like, I could ever love you, blah blah blah. So that's kind of that story there. So she learns her lesson, which is as she got what she wanted, he became planted, but it wasn't the way she wanted it to happen. So again, it's be careful what you wish for. And it helped her to see what the message and the moral there is. It's more important, and this, of course, this man was described as very good looking and whatnot. It's more important to look on the inside of how people treat you, as far as who you might be interested in or want to be close to, or boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, than appearance. Like she had this grand illusion he was this exotic man, because this man had said he traveled to the far reaches of Istanbul and Canada and New York and all these places, and she was fascinated by this because these people are rural. They had never left this little farmland. And so she comes to find out that it was all a lie and he was just a braggadocious. So that's the second tale. And the third tale is about the boy who was working on the farm for his father. And the farm is dried out. There's no water. The wells run dry. The crops are dying. And so he has to trek miles a day with buckets down to this creek to get water and haul it back. And it's exhausting, terrible labor. And he makes the wish. He wishes that there would be plenty of water flowing on their property, as much as water they could ever need, plus extra, Well, then the next day he wakes up and of course he goes to the well, and they keep working on it. They've been trying to get water, and all of a sudden it sprouts and sprouts and starts sprouting everywhere, and then the whole farm floods, and they're floods their house. They're like, houseboating it and stuff like that, and it ruins their crops. And so I won't give away the whole story, but the bottom line in this is, again, be careful what you wish for. Just because something takes hard work doesn't mean you should always look for a shortcut, because the shortcut could actually make things worse. So, and in the end, they go back to Thaddeus Blinn, and there was a man who also was given a card, a shopkeeper or something, that he hadn't used it. So they go to him and they ask him to make a wish to undo all of their wishes. And that's, what happens in the last chapter or two. And then it ends, quite frankly, with the lesson at the end, be careful what you wish for. And I did want to I could read you a little, those are the wrong glasses, a little description of the first book, if you want to hear how it starts. Here in Coventry, we are no strangers to magic. I'm not talking about the rabbit from a hat or coin up the sleeve variety either. I mean real magic. Witches have abounded in this part of New England since colonial days, when Cotton Mather held his witch trials in Salem to be rid of them. The very name of our village comes from a huge twisted tree down at the crossroads where groups of witches, covens they're called, used to meet. Imps and fiends and all the rest of Satan's spawn have appeared here from time to time, taking their pleasure from plaguing and frightening us poor mortals. Some folks even tell of seeing the devil himself walking about and looking for souls to claim when mists hang low on the mountains. So, and then it leads into Thaddeus Blinn and the magic of this man. And this book does have charcoal-like drawings in it, which I really like. And so there is, and the New York Times is right, the book does have a sort of an eerie, magical, a little bit spooky thing to it. So each of the wishes the children make, the spells, I guess they kind of feel like witches' spells that happen to them. Whoops. They do seem kind of creepy, and there's a lot of mystery to it. It kind of leaves you flipping the pages, wanting to know what's going to happen and how it's going to turn out. Here's some art. So I do enjoy this book. The writing is very clever, very skilled and spectacular. And there's one other passage that gives you an idea of the writing here, the descriptiveness, when the 15-year-old is talking to her male friend about the travelings and whatnot of the other man. In China, there's a wall clear across the whole country. It's so big you could be on the moon and still see it. And there's islands where bugs build homes higher than your pa's barn, and people shinny up coconut trees by tying their feet together. If we was to walk along the beach of one of those islands, Rowena, we'd see fish in the water that are every color of the rainbow. Away out in San Francisco, they've got trolley cars without motors, and they're pulled by a cable buried in the street. And, and so there's a couple of pages of description about what lies on the outside of this very sleepy, isolated kind of, these people come across a very ignorant town. But I just want to show you an example of the writing style. The writing style is very clever, beautiful language, very descriptive. You can really feel yourself pulled into it. So a great example of folklore, and done in kind of a mysterious type of a style. Some people call it a modern mythical fantasy. I think it's kind of a cross between the two genres. So anyway, pick this up if you are interested. It says ages 8 to 12, probably age 7 to 15 would enjoy it. I enjoyed this book. Thanks for watching. And if you've read it, tell me what you think in the comments below.